Saudi Arabia's BRICS entry and its impact on global power dynamics. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has just made a power move that could cripple USA.
The world's largest oil producer, Saudi Arabia, is reportedly asking to join BRICS.
China and Russia recently announced that they are going to be launching a new global reserve currency.
Now, the announcement of a reserve currency was made by Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The Saudis are cutting oil production as part of OPEC's decision to reduce. Senate Democrats urging President Biden to end cooperation with Saudi Arabia.
Well, President Biden vowing to punish Saudi Arabia.
Even old friends of the West are ditching it, like Saudi Arabia. And now it wants to be a part of BRICS.
The unthinkable is happening. Saudi Arabia, the U.S.'s closest ally for over 70 years, has joined the BRICS alliance, a bloc seen as a direct challenge to American dominance. This isn't just about oil money, folks. This is a power move that could rewrite the rules of international trade, finance, and who knows, maybe even war. We're talking about a country with a GDP of over $1.109 trillion and the world's second largest oil reserves. That's enough black gold to fill a swimming pool the size of Texas. Now, you might be wondering why Saudi Arabia has taken such a drastic step. With Saudi Arabia's inclusion, will the BRICS alliance become an unstoppable force? Will the dollar be demolished? And what does this mean for the future of the world economy? We're going to break down the bombshell of Saudi Arabia's BRICS entry and expose the shocking consequences for global power dynamics. This is going to be huge, so hit that subscribe button and don't miss a second. Well, the fight between Saudi Arabia and the USA started back in July 2023, when Saudi Arabia decided to cut its oil output by a whopping 1 million barrels per day. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It followed earlier cuts, like the reduction of 2 million barrels per day in late 2022. These cuts are part of a broader OPEC Plus strategy, a coalition of oil-producing countries to stabilize oil prices and keep them high during a recession. But why cut oil production? Saudi Arabia is using this strategy to stabilize its economy and fund massive projects, like the $500 billion Neom City, a futuristic metropolis that's part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's vision to diversify the economy away from oil dependency. However, these cuts have a ripple effect. In the U.S., they've contributed to inflation and fluctuating gas prices, which is a big deal for American consumers. President Biden didn't take this lightly. He fired back, hinting at serious consequences and even pushing for the NOPEC bill, which could challenge OPEC's oil production strategies and hold its members accountable for manipulating the market. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman didn't just sit there. He said, "Okay, guys, if you threaten us with the weakening of our security, we're going to mess with your dollars." He countered with a jaw-dropping move by expressing interest in joining the BRICS alliance. Yes, that's the same group that includes Russia, China, India, Brazil, and South Africa, a real power bloc that could challenge Western dominance. In January 2024, Saudi Arabia officially became a member of BRICS. This expansion is monumental. Saudi Arabia isn't alone. It's joined by the UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia, effectively doubling the size of BRICS overnight. This new lineup isn't just about numbers. These countries together represent almost a third of the global economy and nearly half of the world's population. But wait, there's more. Following Saudi Arabia's BRICS entry, Russia's President Putin announced the creation of a brand new world currency, the BRICS currency. And hey, did you hear the latest bombshell about Saudi Arabia? They just ended their 50-year-old petrodollar agreement with the United States.
But Saudi Arabia has decided to terminate its 50-year-old petrodollar agreement with the United States.
The dollar would collapse, the stock market would collapse, the bond market would collapse, banking system would collapse, the insurance companies would collapse, everything. This is the Great Reset, as those dollars are there's no longer a necessity to hold them. And as those dollars start to come home, inflation rates would go higher and higher and higher and higher.
People here in the United States, they're not hearing about all of this because the mainstream media is absolutely omitting this. They're acting as if this is not happening.
The expiration of the petro deal is huge and could completely shake up the USA's economy, but the mainstream media is ignoring it. For decades, Saudi Arabia sold its oil exclusively in US dollars. This deal, struck back in 1974, made the US dollar the dominant currency for international oil transactions. In return, the US provided military protection and support to Saudi Arabia. This setup not only solidified the dollar's global dominance, but also tied Saudi Arabia closely to the US. Fast forward to now. Saudi Arabia decided not to renew the petrodollar agreement, which expired on June 9, 2024. This historic shift allows Saudi Arabia to sell oil in multiple currencies, including the Chinese RMB, euros, yen, and even digital currencies like Bitcoin. Imagine the shockwaves this sends to the USA.
Our house is your house.
There's an Arab saying, the sands are blowing. And I submit to you, King Fahd, that if the sands of time give us any hint of the future, it is that in the days ahead, the friendship between the Saudi Arabian and American people will be a strong and vital force.
Let's talk about the sheer size and muscle Saudi Arabia brings to the BRICS table. Saudi Arabia isn't just another player, it's the king of the oil game. Right now, BRICS has a decent chunk of global oil production, but with Saudi on board, that share jumps to a staggering 43.1%. That's like controlling the tap on almost half of the world's oil supply. Imagine the influence that gives them. It's like having the power to turn up the heat on energy prices for entire countries. Think about this. With such control over oil, what happens to the pricing power of the West? Can the U.S. still leverage its dominance in global financial systems as effectively when a significant portion of the world's energy resources are under BRICS control? This scenario is a real game changer. But wait. Saudi Arabia doesn't just bring its substantial oil reserves to the BRICS table. It also introduces a strategic geographic advantage, linking major economic corridors between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Saudi Arabia has become so powerful, so rich, and so independent that it doesn't need America anymore. And guess what? America might end up paying the ultimate price for this shift. The dollar's dominance is being seriously challenged. Here's a mind-blowing fact. About 80% of global oil transactions are currently conducted in US dollars. Now, Saudi Arabia accepting the Chinese yuan for some oil sales is a direct hit to this system. If more countries follow this lead, the demand for the US dollar could nosedive, leading to a major drop in its value. The ripple effect will be massive. The U.S. has long enjoyed the perks of having the world's primary reserve currency. This includes lower borrowing costs and a strong position in international trade. If de-dollarization takes off, these benefits could vanish. Higher inflation, higher interest rates sound like a nightmare. It could become reality. But it's not just about money. It's about power. The U.S. has used its control over the global financial system to enforce sanctions and influence international policies. If countries move away from the dollar, the U.S. could lose a critical tool of global dominance. Imagine a world where the U.S. can't just flex its economic muscles to get what it wants. That's a dramatic shift in global power dynamics. Project M-Bridge is just one part of a broader trend.
Saudi Arabia's central bank has also joined a trial for a China-led central bank digital currency cross-border payment system known as Project M-Bridge. And this could be another step towards less of the world's oil being traded in US dollars.
Countries like China, Russia, and members of BRICS are all exploring or implementing alternatives to the dollar for international trade. They're banding together to create a multipolar world where no single country, not even the US, calls all the shots. But why is this happening? Why would Saudi Arabia and other countries want to move away from the dollar? A key reason is to mitigate the risk of US sanctions and reduce dependency on the US financial system. The BRICS nations, including the potential new members, view this as a strategic move to gain more economic sovereignty. For Saudi Arabia, this aligns perfectly with its Vision 2030 strategy, which aims to diversify its economy away from oil and reduce its reliance on Western allies. Now, how would BRICS currency come about and operate as an international currency? Only Putin might have all the answers. But first off, what's important to understand is that if BRICS succeeds in creating its own currency for the first time in 50 years, it could potentially be backed by gold. This alone would instantly make it one of the most valuable currencies globally. However, as Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, it would be backed by two of the world's most precious resources, gold and oil. That's why this potential alliance and currency are drawing global attention, because they could reshape how the world works. So, is this the end of the American empire? Perhaps. But one thing is certain. The days of American dominance built on cheap Saudi oil are over. The Saudis have flexed their muscles, and America, drunk on petrodollar power for decades, might just find itself choking on the fumes of its own dependence. So, if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And to watch the latest geopolitical news, watch this video here.